Welcome to Upside Talk Politics, a left-wing political podcast where we talk about politics, pop culture, and all that entails. I'm Sly.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Darryl.
So, this is another breaking news update. Not really, but we're talking about modern events in lieu of a general topic. And this one, it's about the Trump-Russia shit going on.
What, comrade? There is no Trump-Russia shit.
Comrade
Fake
Radio,
news.
right, guys? That's us.
Fake news,
We're
guys.
Russia.
Oh no,
We are the comrades.
Yeah, we've this is a twist all along. We've been the Russian agents all along.
Yeah, we've been an alt-right, secret propaganda arm.
So just a timestamp. We're recording Friday the 19th at 5-ish.
Yeah, so
May 19th.
a lot of shit has gone down in the recent events. We could talk about other shit, but we figure talking about all the news circling around Trump's apparent upcoming demise is worth at least mentioning. So we're going to talk about Russia and all the things circling around it right now, starting with the controversy in general. Can you tell us about it, Darryl?
So the controversy in general is just, I think everyone knows that Trump's administration and former campaign has a lot of ties to Russia. Like, for instance, Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, met twice with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Rex Tillerson, Secretary of State, did business with Russian companies Rosneft and Gazprom when he was ExxonMobil CEO. Michael Flynn, who was the National Security Advisor, he met with Kislyak, was paid by RT, which is Kremlin-funded propaganda, and visited the GRU.
Okay, wait, hold on. Kislyak, he's a spy, right?
He's not a spy, he's an ambassador.
No, but isn't it rumored that he's a big spy?
Fake news?
Is it?
Potentially?
I think it is.
He's the one who looks like a big testicle thing.
Oh.
What, you don't think so? I think he does.
So, okay. So, he is the Russian ambassador to the U.S., but there's heavy rumor that he's actually a spy, but Russia denies it. But that is a thing that people think. People do think he's a spy.
Yeah, I've never heard of someone affirming, yeah, that's a spy.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's not just me saying that.
Yeah,
people
right.
do suspect that.
Okay.
Okay. And one of the big things, too, about these people is, when Sessions met with Kislyak, he didn't disclose it during his confirmation. Right. That's one of the big things on why he had to recuse himself. It's not just that he met with him, it's he met with him and then lied about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and Flynn said he didn't discuss sanctions with Kislyak, but he did, and that's why he resigned and was let go. Especially because he lied to Pence about it, or Pence had to lie on national television. He's like, they didn't discuss sanctions.
Yeah.
And what was Flynn? He was the National Security Council, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He was the council.
He was the advisor.
Yeah.
Paul Manafort was a Trump campaign manager until mid-2016, was a business partner of Russian and Ukrainian oligarchs. Carter Page, who's a Trump political advisor, met with Kislyak too. The managers of Rosneft and owned shares in Gazprom. Roger Stone, a longtime associate of Trump, appeared on RT and communicated with the WikiLeaks hacker that said that he leaked the DNC emails.
That was the thing with Roger Stone that was so flagrant that he was like, you better watch out, Podesta, something's about to happen, and then WikiLeaks releases all his emails.
He said he met with them. I mean, he admitted it openly.
But that's the crazy part to me is they're just like, we don't give a shit, whatever.
Yeah, he said he's friends with Julian Assange or he knows him. So a total of so far from what I found, 17 people close or related to Trump have ties with Russia, even including his son-in-law Jared Kushner. He met with Kislyak too.
Yeah, all on the DL. Many of them before they were appointed to any official office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's the Comey shit going on now? What was that all about?
So this just happened an hour ago. So, I mean...
Comey got fired an hour ago? I thought it was
No, so, okay. Comey was the head of the FBI. I'm sure everybody knows this. Everybody who's listening knows this. But Trump fired him, and originally they said it was because of the way he handled the Hillary investigation.
So shameful.
Which is one of the funniest things I've, ever heard. And then, the day after Comey got fired, Trump had a meeting with... Who was the one he was scheduled to have the meeting with? Does anyone remember? Because Kislyak was there, but there was another guy.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't
Some
remember
Russian
either.
diplomat. And Kislyak was there, but he wasn't on the official memo, and the American press wasn't allowed in. So we only found out that Kislyak was there because Russian media was allowed in where American media wasn't, and they like tweeted a bunch of pictures and stuff. And
yeah, which the White House was like, they were upset because they didn't know they were gonna do that.
Can you believe it? Russia lied to us. And the thing that just happened was the New York Times just reported a couple hours ago that during that meeting, Trump told Kislyak and the other guy, who we don't remember, that Comey was a nut job, that he fired him to take the pressure off of the Russia investigation, which is like, that's crazy.
The way they spun that, though, is that they, according to the White House, and an official who was defending Trump was saying that they were trying to make it seem like all the Russia allegations have been putting a lot of political pressure on Trump, and as a result, you guys like owe me for all the shit you've caused by releasing those emails.
Yeah, I saw the report that was just like, we're just trying to make good deals, you know? This is all part of the process. But they wouldn't deny that he said these things.
Yeah.
And also, in general, there's been a lot of... Because originally it was the Hillary Clinton bullshit, but like almost immediately after on the interview, Trump said he was sick of Comey's investigation and shit like that.
Yeah, it's like I was going to fire him anyway.
Yeah, and there's like now there's like all this chaos going on in the White House supposedly. But because like now the White House stops releasing memos about anything just because they're afraid Trump will contradict in the tweet later on.
That's what keeps happening. Is originally they justified his firing from a memo from Jeff Sessions, even though he recused himself,
which came from
the deputy.
Yeah,
Rod Rosenstein, Steen or Stein.
Who knows?
That's been the big debate on NPR.
Yeah,
which is it?
That's important issue of the day.
Yeah,
Brian.
but Rod Rosenstein.
I think it's Steen.
Steen sent the memo that was like, I recommend you fire him, and then the White House, everyone, all the staffers, Huckabee Sanders and Spicer said, oh yeah, that's why we did it, because the Deputy Attorney General recommended it. And then Trump did an interview with Lester Holt, and he goes, nah, I wanted to fire him. I knew I was going to fire him before that memo, and I told him to write that memo to, make it look better. And it's like, what the... Guy, what are you doing?
And so, like, now there's a lot of questions of this is obstructing of justice. And also now there's questions of witness tampering, because apparently Trump really wants to talk to Jeff Sessions, and he keeps calling him, even though Trump's lawyers say, "Stop calling Jeff Sessions, you fucking idiot."
One of the main things too is he reportedly had a meeting with Comey where it was Comey, Pence, and Sessions, and he made Pence and Sessions leave, and then he told Comey, Michael Flynn's a really nice guy. You should let this go. You should let this investigation go, which like you can't do.
Yeah.
Oh wait, hold on. One other thing that's just crazy. Kevin McCarthy, the whip of the second top Republican in the House. So he said there's only whip and chain.
Yo, whip and chain.
He said that I think Trump pays Putin, and everybody. I mean, no, I'm sorry, the other way around. I think Putin pays Trump. This is when he was running for president, and everybody laughed, and he's like, I swear to God. And Paul Ryan was like, we should not talk about this. And then it came out that it was recorded, and one of Paul Ryan's staffers said, oh, he never said that. And the Washington Post was like, we have a recording of it. And he's like, oh, then it was a joke.
Like, even though he said I'm serious in the recording.
Yeah. So it's
I
just
don't
like...
think... He said, I swear to God, but it was after a bunch of laughter and before a bunch of laughter. Like, I don't want to... I don't want to stand up and defend Republicans, but I could see it being a joke. Being like... Because he said, like, Putin pays two people. There's this one senator who was voted, like, best friend of Putin one year or something, and Trump, and then laughed.
And it's just so the other stuff that the other stuff that's really important is apparently Comey took a lot of notes and memos, which is why he rose to kind of notoriety during the Bush years, because he did the same thing where there was like a problem with surveillance, and Comey was like, I have all these detailed notes, and they're like, oh, I guess Comey's right then. And so a lot of people, like basically everybody, is trying to get copies of these memos now to see exactly how much or if any obstruction of justice Trump had.
Yeah, and Comey kept all these memos just because he wanted to be on the record before any of this shit went down. That this is what he was thinking, rather than people saying like this is him after the fact he got fired.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of this stuff that we've been talking about revolves around sanctions. You mentioned that before. That Russia has been sanctioned by the U.S. and other Western powers, and this leads into.
So what's a sanction, Phil?
Yeah, a sanction is in this case, is an economic sanction to punish a country for some kind of international transgression. You say, we're going to stop trading certain things with you in order to hurt their economy.
Or you place like tariffs on them.
Yeah. And so to really understand this topic, we have to go back to 2014 when Ukraine, or Crimea, a part of Ukraine, was annexed by Russia. And the U.S. and other powers sanctioned Russia's economy, really.
So wait, what exactly does that mean? Did Russia just say, we want this now, this is ours?
So this is a really complicated topic, because this is what Russia has been doing for a long time. Is they neighboring regions of the world, like Georgia in 2008, Ukraine in 2014, have a lot of Russians there. So I hate. I'm not calling Putin Hitler. I hate making Hitler comparisons, but
it's a very valid. He did what Hitler did. He
right, the
said,
same way that the Nazi government said there are Germans in Austria, they should be part of the Greater German Empire. There are Germans in the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia, so we have the right to protect Germans there, and we will use military force to protect ethnic Germans living in Czechoslovakia. That's what the Russians do. They say there are Russians in Ukraine, and if they want to be part of Russia, we're going to send the military in to allow this to happen. Of course, behind the scenes, there's a lot of fighting because not all Ukrainians want to be part of Russia. But the idea here goes back again 2014. Not to give, I don't want this to turn into a history lesson, but first you can go back to 2014 with Ukraine, then you can go back to 2008 with Georgia, then you can go back to the Soviet Union, and really this all stems from the Cold War. West versus East. We're not even going to get into capitalism, communism. Regardless of ideology, it's two world powers fighting for global hegemony. It's
imperialism. It's not even communism versus capitalism. It's just imperialism. Two imperialist powers trying to fight for control of the world.
It's not even. It's not necessarily imperialism, because they're not always trying to annex these places. They are trying to spread.
But they want to have influence on these regions of the world.
Right.
Like that's why we tolerate shitheads like Turkey and Erdogan, because we want to control that. We want some influence in that region of the world.
And I have no doubt that 30 years from now they're going to talk about this as either an extension of the Cold War or Cold War II or something like that.
Cold War II.
Or something. I mean, it sounds stupid, but World War I and World War II sounded stupid too.
That's true.
We're just used to it. Because all of this stuff that's been going on now is an extension of this global influence fight where Russia wants to extend their influence. They see and know that the West is their enemy, which is not untrue, right? The NATO countries were created.
NATO was created to go against Russia and still exists.
Exactly. And places like Ukraine, there's still shit about this, where we tried to put missile defense systems in Ukraine, and they're like, this is a direct attack against us if you do that, because they are our buffer between NATO and our own country. So places like Ukraine, places like Georgia are hotspots because they are trying to spread their influence there. So what does this look like? In the modern day, we do still have proxy wars, but in most cases, instead of having what happened during most of the Cold War, where one side would support an official government, Syria with Russia right now, and the other side would support rebels, like us with the moderate rebels. In most cases today, though, it's more of a political influence thing, where Russia's not going to support in France or in the U.S. Attacks against anti-Russia people, but they will try to influence the populace to be more pro-Russia. Ukraine is a perfect example too, because the Crimeans, a lot of them did feel like they had to choose between West and Russia, and the president at the time or the prime minister was leaning towards the West, looking to the West for help, and they saw this as a threat. They say, well, we have to act now. We have to get our pro-Russia people to stage an uprising, and if that means sending in troops to defend them, or what did they say at the time? They're like, oh, those are just pro-Russian random militia groups, even though they were Russian soldiers.
Yeah, didn't they have like almost the same uniforms? And,
Yeah,
like,
they just had
things
like the tag
that?
removed.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, those are just Russian soldiers on vacation in Ukraine. But anyway, this whole influence war and the meddling in the election in the United States is all part of this fight for global power. Because what they see is what they did with Georgia in 2008, they invaded part of Georgia. They took it over. What did the West do? They put their thumbs up their butts. So they see this as, this is Putin again, says, well, that means we're not going to be stopped, so let's try again. Ukraine, the West drew like a line in the sand and said, no, we're going to sanction you for that. And the sanction has severely hurt Russia's economy. Their GDP dropped tremendously. They are in the shitter with the economy. And again, not to make Hitler comparisons, but Hitler would take pieces of what he could and see how the rest of the world responds. And when there is no pushback, you're just telling that person they can do more. So Ukraine was a time when the West said, all right, no, fuck you. You can't do that without punishment.
I have a question, Phil.
Yeah.
So they it was one of those things with Ukraine and Crimea where, like you mentioned, it wasn't definite that it was them, but everybody knew it was them. Why? What's the point? If they were still punished for it, like, why deny it?
Internationally, like, as far as international law goes, this is not like a declaration of war. This isn't a military invasion. This is like what we did in Korea and Vietnam, and what they did in Georgia. They're like, this is a peacekeeping mission.
Okay, so if they were to actually march in troops, the UN would respond with force.
And also there's an advantage to strongmen like Putin and Hitler. Like, one thing they like to do is disrupt how the enemies are supposed to react. If it's like a straight up declaration of something versus just a bunch of smoke and mirror bullshit,
I got you.
it's easier to coalesce against an agreement against that force. Like right now, like doing like a lot of GOP are less willing to go against Russia because now they're like, oh, what are they actually doing? Like, oh yeah, Crimea's part Russian, whatever. As we know, like it's easier to fragment your opposition that way.
Yeah, and I've heard people say that.
Yeah, this proxy war though is actually, that's one of the main issues that's going on right now, is because like Russia has opposite intentions as us in a country like Iran, and when Trump told Kislyak and whoever the other mystery guy was that he gave them reportedly, he mentioned confidential information or classified information that is technically not illegal because the president can declassify whatever he wants, but it was given to us from Israel. So now, because Russia knows information from Israel, it puts Israel's trust in us. So, like, it's not like we're going to war, but Israel now isn't as comfortable with us as they were before because Russia's going to tell Iran. Like, it's the same kind of proxy stuff.
Which is, like, something that no president who ever lived during the Cold War would ever have done. And, like, it's just another reason that Trump just... this is not his element. Like, this is such a complicated geopolitical situation that we could have a whole podcast about, like a whole show about. And I don't mean one episode, but
a whole podcast series. You mean?
Yes, exactly. And like the fact that he just doesn't. He's like, if everything can be condensed into bullet points, like, no, it can't actually. This is a really complicated political game across the whole world for decades.
Well, this is the same guy who said, who knew China would be so complicated? Like, one China policy and shit like
and
that.
he was just bragging about, like, look at this great intel I have. Because he doesn't realize that, like, there's 6 layers deep that this goes.
Right. And it's just a really complicated situation. And, yeah, it's not like that the U.S. I'm not trying to say, like, Russia bad, U.S. good, because...
that's not true. That's not fully true at all.
Yeah, it's... The U.S. also meddles with elections throughout the whole Cold War in order to, again, spread our influence as opposed to Russian influence. So
we talked about that a lot in the Reagan episode.
Right. So it's not like I'm not trying to say, it's good versus evil. I mean, I'm saying though that we are on one side and our security is being compromised by an asshole. And at the center of this whole Cold War I, Cold War II potential stuff is Vladimir Putin. He's not just on the scene as of a few years ago. He's been around, right, Ryan?
Yes, he has. So he's actually been around since the Cold War. He joined the KGB in the 70s, and the KGB is like Russian James Bonds, right?
They're the CIA for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And basically, he was like a figure that throughout the 70s and 80s and 90s was like an advisor to head people and like part of like lots of different, international affairs committees. And he was on the Foreign Relations Committee. And the thing that I always forget is like Russia hasn't had presidents for a long time, like for that long. He was the second president.
Yeah.
So like so basically
And he was coming off the presidency of a drunk asshole who people hated. So anything that showed strong leadership was extremely well received. Boris Yeltsin was known to just be drunk in the office all the time and be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, so during the 90s, Putin became the head of the presidential administration and control department of the presidency under Boris Yeltsin. And then he became the chief of the Federal Security Service. So he was like their head law enforcement guy. And then when Boris Yeltsin made him the prime minister in 1999. And then just a couple months later, Yeltsin resigned and Putin is elected president. And one of the things that throughout Putin's elections is there's always a lot of smoke that's like, hey, you're definitely rigging these elections. But, we don't have any evidence, so what are you going to do? But he became the president from 2000 to 2004. Then he re-ran, and during this time, he actually signed a treaty with George W. Bush to limit their nuclear warheads. So he did start to like ease up on the arms race between us and America.
We are America, Ryan.
Sorry.
We are the comrades.
No, you know what I mean.
I assume this was when George Bush was like, he looked into Putin's heart and realized he was a good man or something like that.
Yeah.
And called him Pootie-Poot, I think.
Yeah.
Pootie-Pootie.
And the thing that I find so interesting is during this... So in 2004, he's reelected in a landslide. And during his second term, he actually did start to open up Russia a lot more to the Western world. So, like, he was the first Russian leader to visit Israel. He met with Tony Blair and announced increased cooperation. He was the first Russian leader to visit Sub-Saharan Africa. And in 2007, he was named Time Person of the Year.
Well, that usually doesn't mean much.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
Hitler was too.
Yeah, but I didn't know any of this stuff. Like, I thought he was always like the Putin that we recognized. But that
the Pootie-Poot we all recognize.
Yeah, right? But that came more later on. So in 2008, Dmitry Medvedev was elected president. And 2 hours after he was sworn in, he made Putin the prime minister.
What? Sly, come back!
Fuck you all!
Sly drove off in his car.
It is really hot, so my window's open, so you're going to hear the sounds of New York City as ambient noise.
Yeah. Now everyone knows where he lives. The KGB's coming for you, Sly.
Well, I got, the KGB on my side because I'm Comrade Radio.
Yeah. So, in 2008, Putin becomes prime minister. And do you guys know the difference between prime minister and president in Russia?
I actually didn't. That's what I was curious, because I knew he was one first and now he's the other, but what's the difference?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
So there's a difference. I was just like...
there is one, but... a lot of countries do it differently, like,
I know prime minister gets appointed, but president gets elected, right?
Maybe that's the difference.
Okay,
yeah.
So the president is the central role,
right.
And they run the executive branch,
right.
And they can fire the prime minister any way they want, but it doesn't seem to be I don't think the president, like... One of the things that's happened throughout history, or throughout, modern Russian history, is Putin has increasingly taken on more power. So even though he was just the prime minister at the time, he was still doing a lot of stuff. He was still like the face of the country.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't even know about anyone else besides Putin.
Yeah, so basically in 2008, like I said, Medvedev becomes president. Putin is the prime minister. Now, So now 3 years later, Medvedev calls to unite Russia to everyone endorse Putin for president in 2012. So he isn't president. He lets somebody else be president who gives him a huge job and then endorses Putin to become the president again. And then he gives the prime ministership to Medvedev. So obviously they're working very closely together.
This incestuous party relationship reminds me a lot of the Soviet Union too, where it's like a few Communist Party members just jerking each other off and pushing each other out for power, and like a few of them helping each other.
Yeah. So Putin is president, and then Medvedev is president, and then Putin is prime minister, and then they switch. And Putin wins the presidential election with just under 65% of the vote, and there's widespread complaints of voter fraud, but who's gonna enforce this?
And he is pretty popular in Russia.
Yeah.
Like
any strong man. Because the difference between him and Trump is people like a strong man, but Putin's actually effective at leadering compared to Trump. So he doesn't have the downside of Trump in that regard.
Yeah. So then during his third term, starting in 2012, that's when he starts to get much more of the Putin that we recognize. So he passes a law that bans U.S. citizens from adopting Russian children. It bans U.S.-funded civic groups from operating in Russia. That's when in 2013, he publishes an op-ed in the New York Times criticizing Obama and attacking American exceptionalism.
I remember when that came out, and people were like, "Yeah, fuck you, Obama."
Just another example of the Times letting assholes write op-eds that go against their morals.
Oh, I will talk about New York Times writing op-ed assholes in a second. But I actually know about one thing I know about the culture in Russia is that Putin also he heavily backs the conservative religious groups. And that's one of the reasons why he has so much power, and that's also why anti-gay movements are so prevalent in Russia, because basically Putin allows them to get more and more power, these anti-LGBT groups.
Yep. And it's worth noting too, like Ryan said before, that the Russian Federation that we think of today is only like 20 years old, and a lot of these ex-Soviet countries, whether it's Russia itself or a lot of the Eastern European like ex-Soviet satellites, like they like this idea of like a strong leader that will keep the country together in times, because they went through how many years of famine and chaos, and the idea that there was the Chechnya crisis under Putin's rule, and he used troops to like keep the country together. Like they look at this as like strong leadership. And even it's crazy, I talk to people who are like from Romania and other ex-Soviet countries whose parents are like fuck communism, fuck Russia, but they are like in the whole debate between US and Russia, like they're like Russia is the good guy, like they see Russia as their ally, even though I'm like, when Russia invades your country, you're not going to be thinking this, but I guess that's just...
Well, one of the things that I think Putin does with his propaganda machine is he doesn't, even though he does things that really, really hurt them. So like in 2014, he signed a decree that if any country has sanctions against them, Russia cannot import food or agriculture. So like when they have famine, he's just like, nope, we need less food. Fuck you guys. But the way his propaganda machine works is they don't necessarily focus on how, like they do obviously, but his main focus on how great Russia is. But his main idea isn't Russia's so great. It's America's so much worse.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
And which has always been also a Soviet thing. Like, oh, you think we're so bad with our starving people? Well, you look what you do to black people. Like that was always.
Yeah.
That also shows me that the Nazis actually did too. They will point out shit like the KKK and the American. Like, look what the Americans, their filth, what they have.
And a lot of Russians are like, when there's famine and stuff, they're like, it's the fucking West starving us. It's the West doing this to us. It's the West hurting our economy. It's America killing our jobs, etc., etc.
And that's why, like, a lot of people were like, well, why would Putin want Trump to be president? Why would he push him? And it's because he represents such a destability, obviously. Like, just turn on the news. Yeah. And, like, it's I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about this whole Trump-Russia thing, is it's not that Putin wants to be friends with Trump. It's he wants America to be shitty.
Also, he wants. It's a very easy way to fragment America.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone knew beforehand that Trump would be a divisive figure. Like he came in with the lowest approval rating of any incoming president ever. He he's not a establishment. He's not a person that fits easily with the GOP as it exists.
And he obviously doesn't know how to run.
Hey, how about he said before when he was running for office, hey, fuck NATO. The one group formed to fight Russia, and he's like, "Do we really care that much about NATO?" And Putin, that's fucking music to his ears. Like, oh my god, yeah, fuck NATO.
He's still threatening to leave NATO.
Yeah, it's because the only way that
Actually,
the US
since he is doing this European tour this week, by the time this episode comes out, we might have left NATO.
No, I don't think we would. But like,
you don't think a lot of things would happen.
That's true. But the whole reason the U.S. One of the main reasons the U.S. Was more successful in the Soviet Union was we have a strong, tight-knit alliance with countries like France and Britain and Canada, and we use this force called NATO to force communism out of these countries and contain it. And the idea that we would just shatter this union, that Britain leaves the Eurozone, that France almost elected a Trump-like figure who would leave the EU, like the idea of all this strong Western coalition breaking is like that makes Russia a world power if they can succeed with that.
I know there's also some stories about supposedly there were email leaks against French Macron too, right?
There were,
Yeah, the day before the election or the day of.
It might not even be like I don't know how much of it's confirmed the hacking accusations against Russia, but even if all if they are true, even if Putin just wanted to disrupt and weaken the neoliberal leaders,
He's doing a good job.
But even if he wanted to just do that, he probably didn't anticipate all these crazy radicals like Trump rising above it. He probably
But this works for what he wants so well.
Yeah.
And when I say good job, I don't mean he's doing a
A+.
morally good thing. I mean he's successful at it.
We at Comrade Radio approve you, Putin. So on top of this, we should also clarify how shady Putin is in general, because he was a former KGB agent. So a lot of this isn't confirmed. We don't know. This is one of those things. Like you'll never know all this stuff until the Putin regime collapses or whatever, and we open the books like we did with Soviet Russia. But the one example is Alexander Litvinenko. I can't say Russian. Litvinenko. He was a Russian former member of the Russian Federal Security Services. He went to seek political asylum in the United Kingdom, and basically started suffering from radiation poisoning,
like severe radiation, polonium poisoning, not like just random, like polonium. You don't just find that in nature.
Yeah, and he said, and Litvinenko, whatever his name is, said like this was Putin. He fucking killed me, and like it's never been confirmed, but like. He was a Putin critic, and he died from this really strange really strange illness. And there's other people like former Russian lawmaker and Kremlin critic who
if
fled
I
to
recall
Ukraine.
correctly, the coroner who found that was polonium. They died too.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
I didn't either. That's
Actually, let me look it up
Just real quick,
before I start spouting fake news.
when Sly mentioned that, it jogged my memory. The other Russian guy that Trump met with was Sergei Lavrov.
Okay.
yeah.
And so there was another, while I was looking that up, there was another guy, a former Russian lawmaker and Kremlin critic. He fled to Ukraine in last year, and he was shot outside his hotel in broad daylight, and people accused that of being linked to Putin as well. And like, so there's all these people saying like Putin's KGB, and like being KGB, just like a former CIA agent, they were a shady piece of shit. They had to be.
Hey, you remember that time? That somebody was interviewing Trump, and he was like, "Well, you really think Putin's a good guy? Like he kills journalists and stuff." And Trump's like, "So does America, whatever."
Yeah. Which is true, but like it's one of those things like Putin relies on that, the fact that there's a lot of critics of our shit, but just because we're shitty doesn't mean Russia's any better.
Yeah,
right. And I will always, even though I'm willing to sit on this podcast every 2 weeks and shit on America, I will always defend that it is less shitty than Russia has been for a long time.
Yeah, me too. Even though I was saying like I'm a communist or whatever. I'm not saying that as defense of the Soviet Union or any existing communist regimes. I'm more of like it as an economic policy that could theoretically work, not the things that call themselves communists in history. So that no one misconstrue me as a fucking Soviet Union apologists or whatever. But
I mean, that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, but also, just because I don't like America doesn't mean I support fucking asshole like Putin, who's a fucking anti-LGBT, who kills journalists. Like that's
the thing is like we do shady shit and we have throughout our history, but it's like whenever you compare, it's like we censor free speech sometimes. We don't shoot journalists. I was teaching about Tiananmen Square today, and I had Chinese students that were like, yeah, well, Americans, America, didn't you see the police beating people at some protests recently? And I'm like 2,000 students being shot by the army, and then any trace of it being censored from the internet is very different than police brutality.
We could still fight to be better, but we're like...
Right.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, it was the radiation expert that discovered the poison that killed Litvinenko. He committed suicide by stabbing himself repeatedly with 2 knives in his kitchen.
That doesn't seem... What?
Okay, we laugh about this stuff, but it's such a scary thing because it happens a lot, actually. Like, I don't remember how many years ago it was now, maybe 4. There was that British MI6 agent who committed suicide by killing himself in his apartment, going into a bag, sealing it from the outside, and removing his door.
Yeah.
It's like...
Shit like this happens, like...
Shit like this happens.
Yeah, look at all the people Hillary killed, right, guys?
Well, yeah,
actually,
exactly.
that's actually... So, I like... We're talking about all this Russia stuff, because this is like breaking news for us, right? This is the conspiracy of our lifetime we're thinking about. But if you go on right-wing sites right now, like... When I go between our Facebook group and the Donald, I legitimately feel like I'm living in 2 separate realities, because they are like, the conspiracy has been proven. Seth Rich was proven to be killed by Hillary Clinton, and they're they're about to go to jail. Like the same way we're like, Trump's going to be impeached. They're like Hillary and Obama.
I need to just clarify, just very briefly. This is why so many people in this country don't think the Russia stuff is a big deal, because when these stories were breaking the last week, all Fox News was reporting on was a DNC staffer that allegedly the FBI took his laptop and they discovered all these WikiLeaks things that he was found dead. But
it is a suspicious death because he was just shot randomly outside in DC and after.
But they were reporting that like his family hired PIs, and his family spoke out and said, "No, we didn't. This isn't real. He's like, please let our son rest. Hillary didn't kill him."
Or unless the family is being threatened by the DNC.
Because they killed the son. Why wouldn't they kill the family?
Tangential breaking news. Roger Ailes died this week as well. The founder of Fox News. And, the traditional idea is you have to speak well of the dead because they're dead. But fuck him. And one of the reasons why fuck him is because this is part of his plan to basically... the right wing, the Michelle Bachmans and the Sean Hannitys, they'll talk about the fucking real America, like the other half is living in the Matrix. So when Phil talks about we live in 2 different countries, we are, and it's thanks to people like Roger Ailes.
Sean Hannity was going on and on about Seth Rich, and it's like, do you believe that this guy died, all these things? And like, just the whole week was all about this guy, and then people said bad things about Roger Ailes because he was like the worst, and he was like, you can't speak ill of the dead, especially if you're going to use it for political gain. And I'm like, you can see these like sandwiched between Seth Rich tweets, like, fuck.
No, but Seth Rich was an American hero now.
And so is Roger Ailes, according to.
I mean, like the Seth Rich stuff. Like, I went pretty deep reading this stuff. Like, I was so entranced with this because, like, as I'm reading about you guys posting every day about new Russia stuff, I see them being like, "We're almost there. Hillary and Obama are about to go to jail," and like they are convinced that.
Are you implying that we're just as delusional?
Well, so this is a perfect segue into my topic because in some cases we are just as delusional. And
I've lost my perspective. I don't know what's real anymore.
Yeah, you went too deep. This was my fear when you started visiting it, is that you go too deep.
I don't know what's true or not.
So my perspective on the whole Russia thing is, it's ironic that I was the one who suggested we should talk about it, but it's mostly because it's something that's really prevalent, and and everyone's one person on their Facebook group, which is the max we've ever had for requests, is asking that we cover it. So I thought we should cover it, but in reality, I'm not sure this is as big as some people are imagining it. Like, some people are imagining, like, they hacked actual fucking voting machines and shit like that.
Oh, yeah, that's...
I have heard that. I have heard that.
Yeah.
So when people say they hacked the election, what does that mean?
Like, hacking the election, some people take an incredibly broad way saying, like, they hacked the voting machines. the general idea is very vague, and this is like the idea in general is that they hacked it by hacking the emails and leaking them, and that influenced our election, which is annoying, but it's not as far as some people are implying it. Like Trump was working with the Russians and all that shit, which is what I'm going to discuss. An article by Vox, a really good article that came out just the other day. Democrats are falling for the fake news about Russia, written by Zach Beauchamp.
A Russia shill.
Yeah, Russia shill.
Putin himself is writing this.
Yeah, so, and it brings up a bunch of headlines. Donald Trump is about to resign as a result of the Russia scandal. Bernie Sanders and Sean Hannity are Russian agents. It's like that. And Beauchamp calls this the Russia spear, the fake news bubble for liberals. And one thing about the fake news, like liberals mock it, fake news. One reason why fake news didn't catch on with the right wing was because the left wing was because the fake news people didn't discriminate what they would write about. Basically, they noticed that the left wingers were less susceptible to the shit they made up than right wingers. So as it became a self-fulfilling cycle, whatever you want to call it, where the more right wingers bought into the fake news, the more fake news started catering to right wingers. But now they got an avenue for left wingers, which is through Russia, because there's so much conspiracy going on about Russia. Now fake news is spreading on the liberal side thanks to this Russia stuff. And the article talks about Louise Mensch, who was a former right wing.
Oh yeah, well Louise Mensch is.
Yeah, she was a former right wing British parliamentarian, and she has 283,000 followers on Twitter. And she's a fucking insane person. She's claimed Edward Snowden was part of a years in the making Russian plot to discredit Hillary Clinton. Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah will be president soon, because everyone in the White House and in the House of Representatives, Paul Ryan, they're so in on this Russia thing that they'll all get arrested, and Senator Orrin Hatch will be the survivor, and we'll have President Orrin Hatch. And he said Anthony Weiner wasn't sexting a 15-year-old girl, but a Russian hacker, and he was taken down as part of this Russian hacking thing. And the protests against police brutality in Ferguson were secretly a Russian plot.
Okay.
Yeah.
That one is the best.
To quote the guys from Pod Save America about Louise Mensch is, when you spend all day spewing like dozens of ridiculous conspiracy theories, every once in a while one will come true. None of those, obviously.
Yeah.
But then people use it as like, look, she knows.
Yeah, there's a lot of Twitter accounts that they make a lot of crazy predictions, and they save them, and then when they come true, they like publish them.
Alex Jones.
Nowadays.
Exactly. Yeah. And so she's not just her. There's a former NSA spook, John Schindler, who's a big person. DC area photographer Claude Taylor, and there's also a website called the Palmer Report. It has 70,000 Facebook fans, and the website receives 400,000 visitors a month. So there is an audience for this shit.
Yeah.
And the worry is like this will discredit the Russian investigation, because now there's all people spreading all this bullshit.
Maybe they are Russian shills making people discredit the Russian investigation.
Ah, you see,
because oh my god, it's 50-dimensional chance.
guys again.
The problem though with that is when the actual news is also it's so hard to tell the difference sometimes.
Yeah.
Because like there was an article that was by Reuters, but also confirmed by MSNBC, Time, The Hill, and they all like that the Trump campaign had at least 18 undisclosed contacts with Russia, and this was from yesterday. That's a lot. And that's the thing is like it's so hard to tell sometimes. Because
that's the difficulty.
I know
it's not like there's a stamp of genuineness. It's like how trustworthy does a source need to be before it graduates from fake news to real news? Yeah. Like, is it just a quantity of evidence, and how strong? How do you rate evidence? There's like this is the difficulty in this episode.
And that's one of the things that Russia did a lot too. Is they actually created lots and lots of fake Facebook and Twitter accounts that would then share these things and be like, see? So it's not just, you're not just seeing the website, you're seeing a friend of a friend posting it.
Yeah. And so, like Ryan said, like there's all the, it's like, where does the line get drawn? And that's where the article talks with a bunch of professors about this issue. And it says, like, the fact that there is a legitimate suspicion of conspiracy, like there is an investigation going on by the FBI and shit like that, now people are so desperate to fill in the blanks that they basically open the ground for this. And the article condemns a lot of mainstream publications for giving credence to these conspiracy theories. Like New York Times, they published a Mensch article, and former DNC chair Don Brazil thanked Mensch for the article and said she made good journalism. So you have a stamp approval from the former DNC chair and from the New York Times.
Jeez.
And then you have the former DNC communications chaplain, Adrian Watson, retweeted Mensch claims that the Russians were blackmailing Jason Chaffetz. Senator Ed Markey, a Democrat from Massachusetts, was forced to apologize for starting a false claim that a New York grand jury was investigating Trump and Russia. His sources were mentioned in the Palmer report. And it goes on and on. Keith Olbermann made a popular video for GQ based on Taylor's accusations about that arrests are going to happen imminently. Like he knows that, like Claude Taylor says, like the grand juries are already being formed, the impeachment process has already begun. Like it's not mainstream yet, but I know because my sources are telling me this. And there's also like other, all the other fucking conspiracy theories everywhere, not just related to these guys. Off the top of my head, that I could think of. In November, the Washington Post in November 2016, the Washington Post published a story that relied heavily on the report by a site called Properna, which is an anonymous website that said, "Oh, we determined what is Russian propaganda influencing American media and what isn't." And this is based on Wikipedia. Andrew Cockburn, Washington editor for Harper's, was sharply
Cockburn.
Cockburn, yes. Okay. But I on top of his funny name, I found this comment really funny. He called the article by the Washington Post a sorry piece of trash. And that same site, Proper Not, that said we're going to go to our site to see which is propaganda or not, and which was backed up by the Washington Post. That site later claimed that Bernie Sanders was a Kremlin agent. So, it's very widespread that people.
But isn't this exactly what Russia wanted to happen?
Yeah, but that's why I bring this up. The ultimate point for why I bring this up is people are so, like, even on our forums, like people are so anxious to hear more about this Russia stuff, when in reality, like even if it unfolds, it's not going to solve much in terms of like shit going on in our government. First of all, because Pence is not going to be that much better than Trump in a lot of ways. But
I've heard that Pence is going to go down too if Trump goes
Pence
down.
is super involved in this campaign too. He was head of the transition. And when you have things like Flynn, Obama told Trump Flynn was under investigation, and it's been reported that they knew that Flynn was under federal investigation when he was given the job and the security clearance.
Yeah,
so
Sly, we're getting President Paul Ryan. Get it straight.
Perfect.
Yeah, Paul Ryan's even. I'd rather have fucking Trump or Pence over Ryan.
I don't want to,
But either way, my point is, people should stop fucking speculating so much, and even the media especially, fucking backing up these fucking garbage sources just in the desperate search for more information.
It can be difficult though, because I feel like it's not the same level, and there's the evidence for each of these is not the same at all. But emotionally, it's the same as during the Benghazi incident with Hillary that we're experiencing right now, where we want something so terrible to be true to get rid of Trump.
That was nothing.
Yeah, Benghazi was bullshit though. Benghazi, like it's what.
There's different amounts of evidence.
This has a lot of real evidence.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, since the beginning, I've been like, he's not getting impeached. None of this is going to go anywhere.
Yeah,
okay. That's the thing is, I don't want to piss on this parade, but unless we win the House, he is not getting impeached.
No, unless he committed some serious crimes, which I don't think he actually did.
Yeah, that's the thing. They have to find the money that he paid Russia to hack into the DNC emails, or there's one like he lifts sanctions tomorrow,
or they have to find proof of collusion,
or that he's in some way indebted to like Russian private interests who can then leverage that,
or there's all the obstruction of justice stuff with the FBI.
They're never. We need the House for that.
No, that's the thing is, all the people that are like, oh, he's gonna get impeached. It's at the bare minimum. It'll be if we win the House, and also you still need 67 senators to vote on it.
Again, it's worth noting.
Difficult.
Like I said, like we've said before, no president's been impeached for actual crimes. They're impeached because they're not liked. Like
it's always political.
But
we've never had a president like Trump.
That's true.
But the question is, like, my opinion is that the cover-up is worse than the crime. I think he probably owes money to Russia and he has some shady dealings, but in the end, like, they're probably not that much worse than the dealings any politician has with multinational companies for political favors anyway. but those are all.
But you mentioned he, came in with the lowest approval rating of all time.
Yeah,
It does matter too if it's
Political
a sovereign,
pressure does matter. Yeah.
If you owe money to a sovereign nation versus a multinational company, yeah, it sucks that they're going to suck corporate dick, but they're not exposing us. They're not exposing us to a foreign country's influence.
And also, here's the big thing I think that it really comes down to if we're going to talk impeachment. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, all they give a shit about is tax cuts for the rich.
Yeah.
And as soon as, if this Trump stuff gets it keeps going the way it's been going for the last 2 weeks. If it keeps going where it's just every single day there's another breaking story that's like bigger than any scandal Obama had, we now have every single day. If the political pressure gets so strong that the GOP can't do any legislation they want to get through, if they can't strip our healthcare away and they can't cut rich people's taxes, they're gonna fall off of Team Trump. Because if they'll deal with him to get these things done, what do you think they're gonna do when he stops them from getting them done?
I think it's the inverse. I think they're going to try to get as much done under Trump until until they potentially can't back him up anymore in any way. And like election time happens, 2018, his approval rating is so low that they eventually just distance themselves from him. But until that point, they're going to try to get as much as done under Trump, because this is what's going to happen. Let's say we do get it, no matter what happens, how it happens, Trump eventually will probably leave office at some point, and then they'll say all the Trump care, the economic fallout from the tax cuts, all that shit. That was all Trump, and they'll win re-elections and stuff like that, and they'll get the best of both worlds. They'll have one completely. That's why Trump getting impeached will solve zero.
That's true.
It'll make things better for GOP. Like Trump,
because Trump's always been an outsider to them.
Yeah,
he's like that villain in the comic that they put all the sins on him, and then they can absolve themselves.
Yeah. So this is what you do. Like people are treating the Trump impeachment so much. Trump impeachment, like if you care about actual policy being made, actual democratic victories, you should pray that the impeachment doesn't happen unless it absolutely has to happen. Because if it happens just because of political pressure, like it happened with Johnson and Clinton, that would just make the people who voted for Trump even more bitter. They'll be more radicalized. That would just make the GOP even less culpable for Trump's actions. That would just mean it'll be even harder for Democrats to run against the GOP as. So, like, if there is something here, support that investigation, but stop.
Absolutely.
So, Sly, you want Trump to burn down America, so we won't elect another Trump again, right?
I want if people voted Trump in. They voted Trump in to burn down America. Like, the way it's supposed to happen is you let him run for 4 years. That's our democratic process. You let him run for 4 years, burn the country because that's what we voted for, and then you vote him out because that's the process.
But if he actually is obstructing FBI investigations, and if he's actually,
of course,
if his campaign colluded with Russia, we have to impeach him.
Right, but. You should support the investigation.
Absolutely.
You should support that, but all these conspiracy theories, all these people like basically crossing their fingers saying, "Can't wait! Oh yeah, it's gonna happen." Anytime
you see
that's
that everywhere.
Crazy.
I was at a town hall last weekend, and my representative is Democrat, and the first question asked was, "When can we impeach Trump?"
Yeah. Like impeachment is not going to be a pretty thing, no matter how it happens.
Yeah,
it's not going to be pretty.
My first thought was what you said about the radicalization of. We already have such a polarized political climate that. They're not going to see this as he deserves to be removed. They're going to see this as petty politics. Yeah. They're going to see this as us spitting on them, and the person they picked to fight for them, the way they see this as like the defender of the people, even though it's fucking diluted. That we took him down, and like the establishment couldn't handle him, and that they have to get someone who's even more like him.
Do you think if, God forbid, that Trump has 8 years, will that, like, flush the populist urges out of a lot of people? Like, they'll realize that electing someone that doesn't know what they're doing isn't going to fix things?
I think it will to an extent. That's what the ultimate thing that will crush me is that there is no... I don't think there is any left victories like populist left victories for a while, because the neoliberals will probably think like we can just coast on Trump's shittiness some more. But I do think it's possible that will happen, but like I said, and I don't want to seem like I'm bad-mouthing our viewers or anything like that. I understand the excitement because Trump is a fucking horrible person. He is a bad leader, all this shit. But you have to think about how bad it will be if impeachment happens. Like, it's not just gonna be all.
One of the things I do want to bring up real quick, though, I just saw a recent poll from the week before Nixon resigned. and 68% of his base was still with him. Like, and Republicans had overwhelming majority that they wanted him. They didn't.
Is not like 90 still support Trump.
I know. But I'm saying this was the week before he resigned. This is after everything. Right. This isn't the beginning of the investigation. We only just appointed a special counsel. The investigation's just starting. We've only just started issuing subpoenas and getting these memos. His base is going to be up his ass no matter what.
Yeah, but that's why you make sure. But I'm just saying, impeachment shouldn't be something that we're excited for. Like, it's going to make anything better. It should be something that we're doing because we have to. Like, it's something that...
Oh, yeah. And that's why I think the fact that we got the special counsel investigator is a huge victory.
Yes, it is.
My fear, and to defend our loyal viewers who want him impeached now, I do understand the fear that, we can say, let him be a shithead for several years, and then once he sucks, we'll recover from this as a country. I agree for the most part. However, there are some things there is some damage that can be irreparable.
Of course it is. I'm not saying that as...
No, I mean like nuclear war, if he, with reckless actions, starts nuclear war, or lets, for example, remove sanctions off Russia and lets Putin create a new Soviet empire in Europe.
Or just by having our allies stop trusting us with information.
Or even smaller stuff that's already occurred, like the Muslim ban, that there's people that weren't allowed into America, and that changes their lives.
Yeah.
Of course, these are all valid, because I'm not saying that, like... In my ideal world, like, we would have fucking had electoral college fucking do its actual job for once and prevent the demagogue from being elected. But we have the process we have. So, like, all the things you're saying, like, you could make an argument that those are grounds for impeachment, of course. And
no, but I totally agree with you, Sly, that our goal should be finding things that he did that warrant him getting kicked out of office, not writing the end first and saying we have to get him kicked out of office.
Find something. Right?
Let's find something. It has to be because there's a lot of evidence that there's some shady shit going on.
And he's digging his own grave.
But I need concrete. Yeah, I totally agree. We need concrete, irrefutable, on the record evidence that he deserves to be impeached.
You want a PP tape.
Yeah, I want a PP tape.
PP tape or bust.
PP tape is not enough.
So and this is why it's such an ugly scenario, because there's no easy way out of the Trump presidency. It's gonna be ugly no matter what happens.
Yeah,
and even if we do find a way out, you have to remember that still like 30% of the country would support a man like him again. Like, this is a difficult road going.
But they're gonna do that anyway, whether he's president or not. I would rather them do that when he's not.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where you have to decide what is the most important issue. That's why impeachment should be if the state of the country is at stake, which I honestly believe it is, having such an incompetent buffoon, but we need to be able to prove it for sure.
But the Republicans are starting to flake off.
Yeah,
they are.
I wouldn't be as scared in a pre-nuclear world, but today, like, the idea that he, without needing approval from anyone else, can launch a nuclear strike scares me a lot. Like,
especially since he just fires people according to his own whims.
He doesn't need anyone to do it either. He has the full authority, you know?
I know Kissinger, like with Nixon, Kissinger said he would have the final... Like, he set up that if Nixon set up a nuclear strike, that he'll have to go through Kissinger first. I wonder if, like, Trump has that banner or some shit like that.
I doubt it, but what I would hope is that if he's just like, fuck it, nuke Japan, that his, like, the chiefs of staff would, like, have a coup and like stop this from happening. But I don't know if they would, because the problem with this kind of situation is the reason there is no like chain of command for nuclear secrets or nuclear strikes is because this is a kind of time sensitive thing that you can't wait 10 minutes after Russia's launched nukes at us to be like, well, let's see if we can get in touch with this other guy. Like, if there's
you can't vote on that,
right? They can't be timed. Like, there needs the nuclear weapons are such an imminent and powerful threat at all times that there needs to be a person who can just order one at the drop of a hat. It just shouldn't be Trump. It shouldn't be him.
So that's all the great news we have for you guys today. I hope you all feel better and reassured. Well,
there'll be a nuclear winter and we won't,
Even if he gets impeached, it's bad for us.
Yeah.
More so than any other episode, this has been the entire Facebook group for like 2 weeks. So feel free to join us at Oops, I Talk Divisive Issues.
Yep. If you want to see more of this shit,
Slide's driving away.
No, but there's been a lot of people other than just us contributing, and there's just so much. There's so much to sift through.
Yeah.
So, does anybody have anything else they want to add?
I'm done.
Darryl?
PP taper bust.
PP taper bust. So, if you guys should definitely, tell people, add them to the Facebook group. You automatically get added if someone adds you. You don't get to say no, so do that.
Yeah, it's like a fucking Comrade Radio, pro-Putin dictatorship.
You don't get
here.
to choose communism. We
Yeah.
are adding you to communism.
You can leave, though, so it's a little better.
That's true. No, there's no Berlin Wall.
Yeah. So, this week also rate and review, subscribe on iTunes, all that stuff. This week, I want to mention that last week was Writers' Week in the Comrade Radio Facebook group, and our resident geniuses, Sly and Darryl, wrote really awesome posts about their work, and other people like Jim and Malcolm and Helen and Ryan from Tales from the Static, they all wrote really cool blog posts, so you could check all those out at comraderadio.com. And there'll also be links to buy Sly and Darryl's stuff, and it's great.
Thanks for the plug.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. We're comrades.
We plug each other.
Yeah, every day. So, thank you all for listening. I've been the Kremlin Agent Sanders.
Wait, what's that guy's name? I've been Sergey Lavrov.
I've been a testicle man.
And I've been talking to this testicle man off the record.
We'll present the podcast.